This is part 2 of our discussion on the obesity outline for the APA paper that we're working on. And we had talked about a possible opening paragraph for this section on physical activity or lack of physical activity and how it contributes to obesity. And I want to say that any one of these points, so in this case, lack of physical activity, you could end up writing a whole entire paper on. And it wouldn't be beyond the stretch of the scope of research that's out there. You could break it down to all different kinds of things, basic walking, basic, the fact that sitting contributes to obesity, the fact that maybe weightlifting and how that contributes, that sort of thing. So there's all sorts of things that you could actually include in a section on physical activity if you wanted to focus a whole entire paper on that topic. You could also focus on the big three, as in lack of physical activity, eating habits, and poor sleep, and then just really elaborate each of those three causes of obesity if you wanted to. So it's really kind of up to you. So for the next point, the next cause, we have eating habits. And I've linked up a source here. I hope you can see. Can you see? Alright, it appears that you can see, so I will carry on. Excuse me. Should have done that on my little pause. So anyway, if we roll down to the bottom of the screen where I have the references list, we can see that I have this eating source. It's the second source in the list. It's one entitled Eating, Sleeping, and Obesity. There was no author, so we just put it on the references page alphabetically by the title. There was no date for this source either, so in parentheses I put a little N and a little D, which is what you do when you don't have a date. And then I put the name of the website, which is Health and Wellness, and then retrieve from and the web address. So it's a pretty simple citation for a source like that. That's just an article that has no person taking credit for it. So moving back up to this section B, I want you to see how from each section of the paper, so basically each cause section to the next, you do need to create a transition sentence. And so my example is, while lack of exercise is frequently to blame for obesity, another familiar culprit is what people eat. And that's, again, basically a topic sentence. It's basically an internal summary. So we referred back to lack of exercise, and now we are pointing toward what's coming next, which is basically what people eat and how that contributes to obesity. There was a time when people had to hunt, grow, pick, and prepare everything they ate. Now, all we have to do is go to the local grocery store and buy whatever we want, and as much of it as we want. And while this is extremely convenient, many of the food choices are filled with sugar and lack food value. Excuse me, blah, blah, blah. So you could continue with that, or in that vein. You could go any direction you want to when it comes to eating habits and how those contribute to obesity. It's really up to you. You would do this for every single point that you want to make in regard to the causes of obesity. So you want to say, for each one of them, basically transition from what came before into what's coming next, and then set it up where you give some explanation, you incorporate some outside source information, and basically you continue that way until you get to the end. As I already said, each one of these can become their own paper. As I was doing the research for the sample sources, I thought, wow, any of these would be really quite fascinating to really dig into. And one of the problems or concerns with having too many causes is that you can end up with a paper that is really just skimming the surface and not delving into into depth on any one particular topic. So there's nothing wrong, excuse me, with actually going in and saying, you know what, I'm just going to talk about how eating habits contribute. And then you could go into all the various things. You could have a section on fast food. You could have a section on junk food in the middle of a store. You know what I mean? They say eat the perimeter. So shop around the edge of the store because that's where all the healthy live food is. Everything in the middle is dead. So if you shop in the middle, you're getting stuff that's just doesn't have much life in it and will contribute heavily to obesity. So things like that. You know, you could look at sugar ratios in food. You could look at high fructose corn syrup. You could look at grains in food and how there's more and more of a belief that grains contribute to obesity. And so there's a lot that could be done just on eating habits alone. I don't want to belabor the point, but just something that you can think about. Other points that we brainstormed in class were lack of sleep, technology. Technology is a fascinating one for me because I feel that you could write a whole paper on how technology contributes to obesity by virtue of the car. We don't walk anymore. The TV. We sit and we watch that TV like all the time. You know, we sit in front of our computer. We sit and look at our phones. We sit and we play games on our Kindle or some other handheld tablet device, right? So technology has single-handedly contributed heavily to obesity, I would say. And again, each one of these could be broken down in their own right and just a paper could be written just how that particular thing contributes. There's a stressing every one of these I have created a source for. I haven't created it. I've included a source for it. So you are welcome to go in and take a look at these sources. Again, they're all listed on the references page. The genetic source is pretty interesting, as is the source on depletion of soil. No, not that one. It's actually high fructose corn syrup. And this is a boo-boo. There should be a, there we go, letter there. So on genetics, that source has 3 authors. And so when you have 3 to 5 authors, it's kind of a interesting thing that you do with your source. The first time that you cite it by all 3 authors' last names. In this case, it's Wally, Blakemore, and Frogel. And you always cite them the way they're listed on the actual source. So you don't reorder the authors alphabetically or anything like that. You just take the first source that's listed. So in this case, it's Wally. And notice how there's an ampersand right there. So it's all 3 of them, Wally, Blakemore, and Frogel, and then comma and the year the thing was published. If you cite from them again in the same paragraph, that time you just do Wally et al. Notice the period after all. And then later on in the body of the paper, if you were to cite from this source again, that time you would just put Wally et al. 2006, and that's how you would refer to that source from that point forward in the paper. You can see on H, high fructose corn syrup and other sugar consumption, same story. This is Bray, Nielsen, and Popkin, 2017. So you put that the first time. Second time, it's Bray et al. Later on in the body of the paper, Bray et al. And 2017. I found one source for depletion of soil, which I included here. There wasn't a date. It's actually a really fascinating source. I thought a whole paper could be written on that topic, and it's actually kind of an unknown thing, I think, when it comes to obesity, how depleted soil could contribute, but there's actually a whole school of thought that it has and is. I didn't find sources for medications or health conditions and metabolism. I figured by this point, after having done the practice for those first ones, anybody that wants to add those could easily do that. And so that's that. The next point is the effects of obesity. It's really up to you whether or not you include effects. You absolutely can. You can, in a cause and effect essay, talk mostly about causes. You could talk mostly about effects. You could do a little combination. You could start off by saying, you know, there's a big problem with obesity, and then just go right into this, you know, this problem is caused by numerous things, but what's really bad are the effects of this condition. And then go right into just a list of effects. So there is a huge amount of leeway with the cause and effect paper, which is one of the reasons why I think they're kind of great for this particular paper topic or assignment, because you're able to really kind of think about what you want to do. Do you want to focus on causes? Do you want to focus on effects? Do you want to focus on a combination? And so what I did was I just brainstormed some potential effects of obesity. And this is by no means a comprehensive list. There's far more effects out there than what I've got listed here. But it's a start. You could use it. You could add more. You could drop some off. If you wanted to focus on effects, it's really up to you. So for the first point, health problems, broken down underneath that, I have diabetes, high blood pressure, higher incidence of heart attack, just heart problems in general, sleep apnea, lost work days, higher mortality rates in general, higher insurance rates, and I'm sure that the list of health problems goes on. And you could theoretically write a whole paper on health problems that result from obesity if you were so inclined. Second point is limitations in what a person can do. A lack of physical endurance, can't climb that hill, can't play with your kids, can't take a short walk without getting out of breath, that sort of thing. Can't shop off the rack. Got to special order your clothes, from the big men's store or Lane Bryant or Bryant, whatever it is. That sort of thing. You can't fit into things like airplane seats, standard chairs that are weighted for 200-pound people. You just can't fit in them without worry of them cracking under your weight. So there's things like that. There's also discrimination. I think an interesting paper would be discrimination as a result of obesity, because we know that there is discrimination. Could be on the job, could be in public locations. As I'm sitting here now, I'm thinking it could be in, personal relationships, right? Maybe somebody really likes you, but they don't like the fact that you are overweight, and therefore they just rule you out as a potential partner. I mean, I don't know. People can be superficial. I know there are many more effects you could write about. Excuse me, but here are a few. Also, you could, if you wanted, focus on effects instead of causes. I've already said that. It is really an issue of personal preference, and I'm hoping you're seeing the vast way or array of choices that you have to write this topic. It's actually kind of profound just how many ways it can go. Now, another thing that you can do in a paper like this is provide possible solutions if you want to, and if it fits your overall paper. You don't have to provide solutions, but you absolutely can. A solution doesn't always have to be provided. Sometimes we don't have solutions, but just problems that we want to bring to people's attention. But if you do have a viable solution, feel free to include it along with support from outside sources. You may have more than one solution. You may want to say that maybe you write a paper on how lack of physical activity causes obesity. One solution may be to get a stand-up desk. Another solution may be to exercise in intervals. Another solution might be to take an exercise class, like a Pilates class or a yoga class or something like that. I mean, there's all types of possible solutions for a person who is living a sedentary life that would like to change that. And that's really what solutions are, just potential ways that a person could incorporate more physical activity if they wanted to, walk to work, take the stairs. We've all heard those things. But anyway, just some ideas. Finally, you're going to come to the conclusion, and the conclusion is going to sum up the whole entire paper. And you can generally end with some kind of a recommendation or a sage advice if you want to. You can just sum it up. You can follow the old newspaper adage that says, the intro is tell them what you're going to tell them, the body is telling them, and then the conclusion is telling them what you told them. So you can just kind of briefly sum up what you told them and then end things off. It's really up to you.